Hi, White Post Studio here, and we're going to do a little video on the recent Supreme Court decisions. The one was had to do with concealed weapons and how the Supreme Court made a decision that New York State was not able to restrict people from having concealed weapons just because they want to, but they had to apparently provide a specific reason. And that's a step forward for gun ownership and gun rights for law-abiding citizens. But we looked into it a little bit before, and it turns out that states like New Jersey, New York, California, they don't recognize right to carry concealed weapons licenses from other states. So be warned that if you're going to conceal and carry a weapon, you have to be licensed in the state that you are actually carrying the concealed weapon. But nevertheless, this is a positive thing, and we don't know what's actually happening out there with the red flag laws. Our traitorous rhinos are out there trying to do everything they can to infringe upon the legal ownership of gun owners without paying hardly any attention to all the crimes that are happening in inner cities, and the whole concept of stop and frisk is completely off the table, and they are obviously have no desire to reduce crime or all of these never-ending murders that are happening, but instead they want to focus on law-abiding citizens. Perhaps they're afraid that law-abiding citizens might at some point bring them to justice. Anyway, that's one issue. The other issue obviously has to do with the striking down of Roe v. Wade. And that, as you know, 49 years we've lived with Roe v. Wade, and I don't know about you, Ben, but the thing that kind of is funny to me is that these people are going crazy mostly in these liberal states where it's going to totally not affect them in their liberal states whatsoever. So it's like they don't really, they want everybody in the whole country to live according to their own personal preferences. And yet they are the ones that are always, talking about democracy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so a lot of people are going crazy thinking that this means that abortion is against the law now. But actually this, removing the Roe v. Wade decision just means that the states can decide, each state can decide for itself if abortion should be legal in its state and how they should handle those laws within their state. I think it's better for each group of people. Each state is different, so each group of people in each state should make up their own laws for their own people. Because not everyone in the entire country is the same. Not everyone thinks the same, not everyone lives the same. And cities do not live the same way as farms.
Yeah, for sure. The thing that I, as I mentioned to you earlier, that and to your brother Dan, that now they have pills that you take a pill and terminates your pregnancy. So this just seems to me like a lot of hullabaloo over nothing. Maybe it's just because they just want to make this as the big distraction and the big vote getter. Like the Democrats' Let's Stand for the upcoming elections. Because I don't really see that this is such a big deal. You could always make a trip to a neighboring state that happens to be a liberal state and get your abortion. It's a minor inconvenience. But the public sentiment in the country has really drifted against abortion, and I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that we can now see the fetus and the embryo, and the with ultrasound and see it's, like it's sucking its thumb and doing things that are very humanistic. And then there's the descriptions by doctors where they have these later term abortions, and the fetus is actually fighting to try to survive. It's trying to resist the knife, and yet they go in there and they cut it to pieces. I mean, it's barbaric, and I got to tell you, I for the life of me cannot understand how any woman could let something like that happen to their own flesh and blood, just because of their own and their partner's irresponsibility. Because let's face it, if you're responsible, even if you partake in different types of sexual acts, you can still take precautionary measures. You can. There's so many different things you can do. I mean, the rhythm method and on and on and on. There's the birth control pills. There's all different kinds of prophylactics that can be used to prevent pregnancy. And I think that this whole thing seems to me like a symptom of a childish, immature, and irresponsible population that's just hell-bent on, doing whatever they want, no matter what the consequences are to any other kind of living being or tissue.
Mm. Yeah, they want to be able to kill their own child at any time for any reason. Even some of the most conservative states allow abortion for if someone is in danger of dying for medical reasons or something. So in special cases, a lot of states still allow it, and they want to be able to do it because it's sometimes it's part of their evil plans. So, some of them want to continue having irresponsible sex, and some of them actually have abortion 10 times.
Well, I don't think that the evil plans are so much by the women that are in a position where they may need an abortion. The evil plan is from corporations and different groups that are manipulating the situation and getting them all excited. Because I heard one woman that was a pro-lifer, and she said that a woman that is in a position where she's pregnant and it's a very hard psychological thing for her to go through. It's just perfectly understandable to me. She said it's more comparable of like an animal being caught in a trap and having to gnaw off its own leg to get away from being captured. And sometimes people are in predicaments where they have financial issues, or they might have histories of psychological defects. I mean, I'll be honest with you that even though I'm a big advocate of life and I'm a big advocate of personal responsibility, I however, am not sure that I would support making a woman have a child come to term and birth if it was determined that this child was somehow seriously defective. Because I know that that's not in line with the church, the Catholic Church, but the taking care of a child that has severe mental impairment is no joke. I mean, that's like a curse, and I can sympathize with somebody that doesn't want to spend all that time and energy in something that doesn't amount to anything at the end anyway. But that's my own personal opinion. I do believe, in general, that abortion is something that Christians should not do. And I really do believe that should be the choice of a mother. Although I disagree with irresponsible choices, but obviously if there's a rape or the mother's life is in danger, there's nothing to talk about. No question she should have the right to have the abortion. But I don't know. This is a situation where I think that the mother should have the right to decide. It's not something that a Christian woman should do. But on the other hand, the one thing that does bother me is that when I, as a Christian taxpayer, have to pay for the abortion. Now, people have told me, they said, you don't realize what you're paying for the abortion is peanuts compared to what you're going to be paying to support this child and feed it and provide it with medical attention if it is defective in some way. And I understand that it's economically, it's much better to just spend a small amount of money and be rid of it. But that's not the Christian thing to do. And I don't want my tax dollars to be used for murder. And I'd be more compassionate and more willing for my tax dollars to be used for the care of a child if the mother was determined to carry it to term, even if it was defective in some way. But that all revolves around Christian compassion, and it makes you really wonder, what kind of a world do we want to live in? Do we want to live in a world where we have compassion for one another, or where we are just demanding that people do what we want them to do? Even in a Christian community, I mean, who knows what a woman would decide or under what circumstances, but ideally, a person of faith should be more responsible. Anything you wanted to add to that, Ben?
Yeah, I definitely disagree about the defective children idea. My mom's sister took care of someone who was born with a lot of problems, and he was like a part of the family. He couldn't really speak or do anything on his own, but every time we would go to her house, he's there, and she would feed him, and we would take him to church, and it's like part of the family. I wouldn't want to have someone like that just aborted. I think life is better with him being there.
It depends to a large extent what the feelings are of the mother and the father. If the mother hates this child and she wants it out of herself for whatever reason, or if she has no intentions of nursing a child that has special needs, then you have a serious problem, and ultimately we all stand in front of God and we answer for ourselves.
But that's why there's adoption.
Well, yeah, but to tell you the truth, there's a lot of kids out there that are ready for adoption, but nobody's adopting them. Mm-hmm. So a lot more money has to be put into taking care of orphans, and even if nobody adopts them, to have orphanages that are run. That opens up another can of worms. I didn't want to get into this subject in this video, but I got to tell you, I'm really down on public school education because of the things that I was just traveling this morning from Bayonne, and I'm listening to WOR FM, and this liberal tripe. I mean, it was just making me sick, and they're going on and on with their BS, and it's just like if you listen to enough of that crap, eventually you're going to start becoming mentally ill yourself. It's the whole problem is with orphanages is who's running them, and what kind of indoctrination are they going to get in the orphanage? I can imagine an orphanage. I have a son who does work in an orphanage, and he always worked with boys, and he always was looked up to by them. and he's a good leader and a good kid, and I could see under the right circumstances, the children in the orphanage could love being there, and the whole orphanage could be sort of like a big expanded family, and the whole orphanage could operate like a replacement. I guess nothing could really replace a loving mother and a father. However, an orphanage might be able to come close. And these things, they all lead one into another. Another controversial topic has to do, in my opinion, with homosexuality. Again, as a Christian, I don't think no Christian should be HBLQTZ, whatever the hell they call themselves. And I don't think that a real Christian should be a homosexual, because homosexuality is anathema to God, and it says so right in the Bible. However, if somebody does want to be a homosexual, and they do have a homosexual relationship, I have nothing against them. I've worked for customers that are homosexuals. I've done just as good of a job for them as I've done for anybody else. But to tell you the truth, I frown on their rights to adopt children, because I don't think that an innocent child should be put into that environment. And I know that this is a very controversial subject, but you know, the whole thing with homosexuality is that you chose a sexual lifestyle that is not capable of procreating, and therefore you should not be in a position where you're raising children. I think that raising children is just for heterosexual couples, and that have obeyed God's law, and they participate in a sexual family within the confines of marriage relationship that then creates a family structure. You know, our families in America are really under attack, and a lot of people in America have no idea what's going on in the rest of the world, and they have no idea about how the rest of the world views us. If you go to other countries, you'll find radically different opinions on these subjects. We were just discussing places like Japan before, but I mean, there's other places like Saudi Arabia. You know, even I know that Russia's not very popular right now, but they are actually very moral and decent when it comes to their family structures. Their government may be a little dictatorial, but there is decency from a moral standpoint, and a strong, you know, Christian-based structure. Even though I've got my issues with Orthodoxy and Catholicism, but that could be something we could discuss in another video if you want to. Mm-hmm. But the bottom line is, on the fundamentals, that people are on have a Christian, you know, based society where they go to church and they pray their prayers, and there is a certain amount of respect and decency for the church leadership, and something that is a structure of order of some type, you know, which is kind of lacking in a lot of ways, and you have this situation now in America. I was just thinking the other day about how people are saying that this is what the sexuality that I decide that I am. You know, no one should be able to decide their sexuality until they are at least 18 years of age. If you're a child, and no teacher should be influencing the children or getting involved in their sexuality. We're not paying teachers to get involved in children's sexuality. They're there to teach them about math and history and science and everything that they need to have an education. We don't give a damn what your political opinions are, teachers. Your job is not to influence our children with your political opinions. And that has to be made clear. And if there is anything that's worth fighting for, it's your children. My children are now grown. My wife and I, we fought the fight, and I think to a very large extent, we did a good job. However, we, God willing, may have grandchildren coming down the pike. And if we do, I can tell you that the battle is much more difficult now than it ever was before. And hopefully when people do have families, they have family structures where they're around, so that when they do have children, that they are grandparents in the picture, because in addition to fathers and mothers, grandparents are an asset that really helps to build the family structure and show the children that there is something, some wisdom that comes with age. Hopefully in some people more than in others, but whatever the case may be. Mm-hmm. So anyway, I think we went pretty long. Anything else you wanted to say, or do you want to wrap it up?
I still have the video from here.
Oh, okay, yeah, show it.
Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. I don't think abortion should be allowed in any case.
Okay.
There should be a society where people support each other in a way so that if someone is in a bad situation, or if their child is going to be disabled, there should be other people in the area or in the family or in the community, maybe it's someone else at the church, who would be able or willing to take care of their children for them, or adopt the children for them. There should be enough people who are interested in helping others, so that they would be willing to adopt someone else's children if needed. Because if someone cannot take care of, or is unable to, or doesn't want to take care of a disabled child, or any kind of child, even if they're not disabled, then they're not capable of taking care of the child, there should be enough of a supportive and helpful community that would be able and willing and ready and want to help to take care of their children for them. That's what I think.
Well, obviously that would be a wonderful thing, and I hope that we do have that in our communities. I think that that when I look back on my own life, and I can tell you that there were times, as you were talking, I was thinking back about my life and thinking about how there were times in my life when I did some serious heavy-duty praying. And I got to tell you that in every time that I really prayed that intensely, God answered my prayers. One of the times I prayed that intensely was back in when I just first got out of high school, and back then they had the lottery for a draft, to be drafted to go to Vietnam. And I guess I was kind of, it's not that I was a coward, especially when I was young. I was a lot more heroic than I am now. But I just had that gut feeling that if I go to Vietnam, I'm not coming back. And I prayed very, very diligently and sincerely for God to help me and pull me through. And I got a very high lottery number, and I avoided that danger or that problem. But I am very sympathetic to all the other guys that I knew that went, and some of them were my friends, and they died many, many years later from things like Agent Orange. So I am sympathetic to the sacrifices that they made. But again, I'm very upset at our government, because that's a war that we should have never fought. But that's another story. Then later on in my life, I prayed every time my wife, got pregnant and we were going to have a child. We had 3 children. And I remember with every one, I prayed so, intensely that we would not have a deformed or a sickly special needs, especially not even so much physically deformed, but I was really mostly concerned about a mental deficiency. Mm-hmm. And God, and there was one child that my wife lost, and perhaps that would have been the child that might have had some serious issues. But the thing is that it wasn't an abortion; she just had a miscarriage. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's nature's way of sometimes, getting rid of embryos that are not developing properly. But thank God, and the reason why I wanted to say that is that I just didn't feel like my wife and I, we had the inner strength to raise a child like that. Some people are stronger than others, and my wife and I just didn't feel that we were that strong. We would have been heartbroken, and we would have been, every time we would look at that child, it would break our hearts, and we would feel pity and sympathy for it. And maybe the defect was more in my wife and myself than it would have been in the child, because there are people that are stronger than we are, and they can take that kind of a challenge, and they could do something with it. But I really didn't feel like I was up to it, and I didn't want God to put us through that test. And I thank God that He was merciful to us, and we have 3 grown children now that are, you know, about, I think that they're pretty good, considering, just like Ben and Dan, you know, pretty straight, good kids, considering the kind of society and the kind of problems and the influences that we have around us. So I don't really like to, you know, impose my feelings on other people, and my basic feeling about Christianity is, you know, and Christianity is really all about freedom. You're not supposed to do the right thing because other people force you to do the right thing. You're supposed to do the right thing because it's your own free will to do the right thing. That's the whole goal of Christianity.
Right.
You know, and I would like for people to come to these conclusions on their own, through their own path. However, whatever path gets them to where they need to be. But I would, you know, I'd like to end this video and say things that are not controversial in any religious kind of a way. But I think that Ben and Dan would agree with this, that the thing, this is my parting suggestion to you, unless Ben has something else to say. When it comes to having a relationship with God, I mean, there's some things that are so obvious, but people may not think of them. And then some of them might sound corny. But you have to have respect when you're praying to God. These are some pointers. One thing that you never do is you never pray to God when you're sitting on the toilet, okay? Because that is a form of outright disrespect. As a matter of fact, in the Bible, people don't even pray to God if they're in their underwear. They're supposed to be dressed to show, I mean, like when you go to church, really, you should dress in something nice to go to church, not to show off in front of the other people, but you're dressing for God, and you're going to church because, you know, I mean, this is just my opinion. Every opportunity you have to demonstrate that you have a respect for God is a good thing. And in that same vein, I got to tell you that what makes a lot of sense to me, and something that I do very often, is I pray to God on my knees. And the way I do it is I do it in private, because I don't want to make a show of it. And I'm not telling you this to tell you to make you think that I'm righteous or anything baloney like that. I'm a sinner, and we don't need to get into that. But the point is that when you're doing it in private, you're not putting on any pretenses, you're not trying to make yourself look like you're holier than thou, but you are personally praying to God with your own words in private, and those are the kind of prayers that I think are heard. And you have to start praying about things more than what I need and what I want and all my problems. Why don't you also pray for wisdom? And why don't you also pray, hey God, what can I do for you? And then give God a little time so that He can answer you. Listen, and pray, and listen. And of course, read the Bible. It's very important that you read the Bible, because you have to know it for yourself. You have to get it, as they say, from the horse's mouth. And the Bible, you know, is getting it direct from scriptures. This way, when you discuss scriptures and the basis of your religion with whoever you discuss it with, you're speaking from a position of knowledge. And when you're talking about Christianity with your priest or your pastor or whoever your religious leader is, they should have no problems with you being educated. I think it benefits everybody.
Okay, so a few things. Sometimes when people think that there's a burden you can't take, God gives you the strength to handle that burden. or God finds a way that you maybe you would never have expected.
That's true. That's true.
Another thing, when I said that there is an evil plan behind abortion, you kind of thought it was something more about corporations or something, but no, I was thinking more about something entirely different. How there are people who want to have more abortions done in the world. It's like the Satanist people consider it to be like a sacrament to them, where they want to have someone to get pregnant just so that they can get an abortion, and it's like a rite of passage to them, where they want to have someone get an abortion.
You know that
it's an evil plan they have.
There's a lot of people that are going to watch this video and they're going to say that this is tinfoil hat stuff, but in reality, there are people like that.
I don't think that's so crazy to say.
Yeah, but you know, most people will never believe that. It's almost like now this is one of those type of things where a lot of people say, "Oh, they just went off the deep end." But you don't be naive. There are Satan worshipers in the world, and there are people that are like that. How many of them there are, how well organized they are, I don't really know. But I do believe that there are people like that.
Okay, and now the next point. In Steve Turley's video, he said that this decision by the Supreme Court is the death of liberalism, because abortion is a big part of their worldview. That they want a family to be a lifestyle choice and not just the normal way of living.
Exactly. Everything with them is choice. In other words, it's what I want. I don't care about rules. I don't care about God. I don't care about law and order. It's what I want. Everything boils down to I should have the freedom to do whatever I want. I can determine what sex I am, regardless of how I was born. I just say, oh, I'm I saw a funny video. They had Chuck Norris, and he said, that there was a time when I found myself inside the body of a woman, but then I was born.
Okay.
So, but I think that all that stuff is so ridiculous. I was just thinking to myself, I'd like to get one of these yo-yos on top of the roof of a skyscraper and say, you know what? Why don't you just say, I'm not a human anymore. Now I'm Superman, and jump off. And it's the same thing with, what sex are you? You know that if you're born a certain way, you're born that way because that's the way God wanted you to be born. And I think that you should put a little emphasis on the determinations that have been made in your behalf. And if you are going to take hormones, or if you're going to alter your body with surgery, hopefully after the age of 18, I think that's a huge mistake. But if you do, then you might have the right to use whatever bathroom that you want to use. But this whole notion of somebody just saying, oh, I'm a woman now and I'm going to wear a dress, and that means that I can wear a ladies' room, that's BS. That's BS. I don't give a damn what you're wearing, and I don't give a damn what your pronouns are. That's bullshit, okay? And you're not going to be using no ladies' room unless you've had your fruits cut off in a surgery where you've altered your life permanently, and then you're not a danger to anybody in that ladies' room, And I think that this is where we have to draw the line, because this is already becoming, we're moving into La La Land,
Yeah, we know someone who's decided to just become a woman after he was already over 30 years old or whatever. And
well, so go have the surgery. Go have the surgery. And if you're not going to have the surgery, then shut the hell up.
Even if he does have the surgery, it's crazy that he could just suddenly start using the women's room and
no, they're only using it because we're allowing it to happen.
He doesn't even look like a woman.
Look, That's that one particular case. I'm talking about in general. In general, this whole idea, I mean, if you tried to pull that in another country like Russia, they would smack the shit out of you and throw you the hell out of that bathroom, and that would be the end of it. And the only reason we're putting up with all this crap is probably for the same reason that we're allowing 6-month-old children and up to get vaccinated when they absolutely have no need for these vaccinations, and these parents that are letting their children be vaccinated should have their heads examined. And I got to tell you that when those children get sick and some of them will die, they are going to put a heavy guilt trip on their parents down the road. You know that I just saw an article that was written by Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the son of Bobby Kennedy, and I'll tell you, wonderful guy. I can't say more good things about him. He, a lot of people probably don't pay too much attention to him because he has that funny sounding voice, because he had some kind of an illness, I think. But this is a wonderful man. I mean, this guy is an intellect. He is moral. He's got a very good moral compass. He wrote a book that I read that was called The Real Anthony Fauci. And I got to tell you, it was a hard read, and I had to have a dictionary with me throughout the whole book. But I got to tell you that he wrote, in addition, a book I highly recommend, The Real Anthony Fauci. But he also wrote a paragraph recently that he said that these pharmaceutical companies like Pfizer and Moderna and maybe Johnson & Johnson, you know that they're heavily invested in all the medications that people are going to need that are going to be symptoms of the vaccinations.
Yeah.
So they're poisoning everybody, and that are going to make 10 times more money on all the medications that those people are going to need because of the crazy symptoms they're going to have. And I mean, it's a whole spectrum of symptoms, by the way. And I'm not a doctor. I don't intend to get into the details of it. But the research is out there. If you want links, I can give you more material than you'll ever be able to get through. But this is something where one of the reasons why I wanted to make these videos is I want to see the people in this country wise up and not be led around by the nose. You know, these people that are basically leading public opinion, I called them in another video liars for hire, okay? They're like the Pied Pipers of our society. And they're leading everybody right off the edge of a cliff. And don't let them deceive you. We should make a video on deception, because deception is not from the standpoint of how to deceive other people, but how not to be deceived by different clever forms of deception. But that'll be an upcoming video.
Right. So there's this idea of subsidiarity where decisions should be made at the lowest possible level whenever possible. And so it is best for decisions like abortion to be done at the state level. It's because instead of having the same law for the whole country, each state with different kinds of people with different ideas should have their own law. Subsidiarity. But what the liberals want is to force their own ideas onto everyone else.
Right.
And in a way, so what Steve Turley said is liberalism cannot exist without abortion, or whatever. It's the death of liberalism. He said it's impossible for it to exist without abortion. I'm not sure exactly how to explain it the way he did, but they need to force their ideas on everyone else for liberalism to continue.
Dr. Steve Turley is definitely worth watching. I think we're not just here to get all the views that we can, but we'd like to tell people about other sources of information, and he definitely is one of my favorites, and I think he's worth listening to, and he understands things on a much higher level. But one of the things that are we done yet?
No, there. Just to prove that how much they want to impose their ideas on everyone else.
All right.
I have this video from I found on Twitter here that shows protesters who want to keep abortion attacking cars.
Yeah, go for it.
Don't do that!
Are they hearing the sound for this?
Yeah.
Don't do that!
So you see, the thing is that they want to impose their will on other people. I understand. But what the Supreme Court did is going to contribute to, ironically, it's going to contribute to more power leaving Washington, D.C. and going to the state capitals. Mm-hmm. And that's a good thing. Because this way, everybody that lives in their own state, their government is a little closer to them, it's a little more local, and it's a little bit of a better reflection of the will of the people of that state.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of what they might say deep state or certain, sometimes the liberals want to have more power concentrated in the federal government, and then they want to take over that concentrated power for themselves.
That's the way it always is. If you look at communist China, if you look at the former Soviet Union, they're all centrally controlled governments. That they don't like the idea of regional diversion from their monolithic views.
Right, so they're communist Democrats then. But the idea with America was we tried to separate powers. We have the three branches of the federal government. We have a lot of powers separated between the states and the counties and the cities, so that you don't have one person at the top ruling for everyone. You have powers divided as much as possible, so that you can have everything done at the lowest level possible.
The founding fathers created a tough nut for these people to crack. Mm-hmm. You know, and thank God for that, because that's one of the only things that's keeping us afloat. The fact that our founding fathers came up with such a great system, because our founding fathers understood human nature.
Right. And that's basically what's going on. I mean, that's one of the main points here with the Supreme Court abortion decision, that they're giving the power back to the states. And that's the way it was supposed to be by the Founding Fathers in the first place. And the problem was we moved away from that system, and now we're going back to the system with having more powers in the states.
Exactly, and you know that these minor protests are not going to add up to a hill of beans, and I think these people should stop running around protesting and start getting on with their lives and doing something productive, you know. And can you imagine that they're protesting so that they could have the right to kill their own baby? You know what I mean? When you really think about it, it's so absurd that it's like it's ridiculous. The whole thing's an absurdity.
There was one protester, I remember, she was saying her mother didn't have the rights to abortion, so that's why she was born. And
right,
she's
so now she's grateful for that.
No. She's upset because she wanted her mother to have the right to abortion so that she would never have been born.
Oh, so she was complaining that she was born?
Yes, in the street she was complaining.
But I've seen another woman who said exactly the opposite. She said that her mother wanted to abort her, but because she was not allowed to, she was born, and she's so thankful that there was that law, so because she's so happy and she's so happy to be alive. So you got people on both sides of that fence, you know. So the thing is that I don't like whiners, you know, and you should be thankful for whatever life you have, and you should try to do the best with whatever you have. And you know, we all have different gifts, and we have different shortcomings. We're dealt a hand of cards, and that hand of cards is what we have to work with. So we have to take, what God gives us and do the best we can with it.
And this kind of goes back to what you said about the transgender people. And they should accept what they were born with. People should accept what they are given by God.
Exactly. But I want to, you reminded me of something that I think should be spoken and said. That there is, in the Bible, there was a relationship between David. You've heard of David in the Bible that killed Goliath.
David and Goliath.
Well, David later on there was a king. I think his name was King Saul, not the Saul from the New Testament, but King Saul in the Old Testament. And King Saul was the king, and he was kind of jealous and a little upset with David, because David was a rising star, obviously, after he killed Goliath. And Saul had a son whose name was Jonathan. And Jonathan and David, they had a love for one another, but it was a purely platonic love, And what I feel is a sad thing is that real love could be between a man and a woman, two women, two men, but we're talking about real platonic love. You know what I mean? And there's nothing wrong with two men loving each other. It's just that, sodomy is not something that the Bible approves of.
Right.
Now, because that's not love, by the way. Okay, that's lust. And a lot of people in America seem to not understand that there's a big difference between love and lust. Don't you think that's true?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Right.
So, I mean, people when they're young and the hormones are raging and it's hard to talk to them, and maybe that's why there is some benefit to being older, because you already bypassed all of that and you could see things more clearly. And
but it's important to recognize that other languages have more than one word for love. There's like the philios, there's brotherly love. There's another one called agape, and I forget what the other ones are. There's something like maybe 5 different words the Greeks had for love.
Right. Well, I'm not intimately familiar with all of those terms, but I do know that Philly was like Philadelphia is based on brotherly love. It's called the city of brotherly love. And then there's always, I guess, one of the most strongest types of love is the mother-child love. Mm-hmm. That is one that is very strong in our society. Then there's the romantic love, mm-hmm. So, I'm no authority in this subject, but love is something that is something where you give of yourself. It's not a selfish thing. It's something that, And if we all, have feelings, positive feelings for one another, the world is a much better place.
Right.
And anyway, as far as all of these people that are demonstrating, you're being over dramatic, you're being manipulated, and it's not a big deal. Nobody's really stopping you from getting an abortion. I mean, you have other states to go to. You've got all kinds of means by which to prevent a pregnancy. There are pills available that you could take that would cause an abortion. But I would caution you to think carefully and be more responsible, because when we live in a society where people are more responsible, we all benefit. The whole country benefits, the whole society benefits, and hopefully that's the kind of world we want to contribute to making it more that way.
Okay.
All right, folks. Till next time. Signing off. White Post Studio. Take care. Maybe we went on a little too much, or what do you think? What?
How long was that?